Update. We do want to let people know that parents can pick up their children at 17th and Esplanade. So if you're a parent wondering how to get your hands on your children today, that 17th and Esplanade would be the place to do that once they do indeed start that controlled release. Obviously, you're looking live. You see Mayor Michael Hancock there getting ready to address the media. Let's listen in.
Try to be as brief as possible today, but we want to make sure we give the public an update on the situation here at East High School. Obviously, a very difficult, challenging situation. Before we get started, my name is Michael Hancock, the mayor of the city and county of Denver. What we're going to do today is to ask Chief Ron Thomas to give a situational report on the incident here at East High School. And then we'll bring up the superintendent, Dr. Marrero, who will give a situational update on the school and what we're going to be doing going forward here at East, as well as other schools throughout the district. There will be an orderly timed release of students in just a few moments out of East High School. But we want to also give you an update that what we do know today is that a male student who was under certain agreement to be patted down each day here at East High School shot and injured 2 staff members at East. What we know about them right now is that they're both, one's in surgery right now, the other one is stable and able to talk and to give statements in terms of what happened. We know that one other student unrelated to the shooting was transported because of an allergic reaction and a visceral reaction to the tension of the moment. Nothing trumps the safety of our young people in this building and the faculty and staff, and we feel for them right now. This should never, as a parent, I can tell you, never be a concern of a parent, whether or not their kids are safe in their building. And so Chief Thomas and Dr. Marrero and DPS Board of Education and I are committed to making sure we do everything we can to keep our young people and the faculty and staff of these buildings safe. Let me turn it over now to Chief Ron Thomas to give a situational report and give you more details on what happened today, and then we'll have our superintendent, Dr. Marrero, share as well. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. So what I can share at this point in time is that at approximately 9:50 this morning, a call was aired of a shooting here at East High School. Officers and medical professionals from Denver Health Medical arrived on scene very, very quickly and discovered 2 adult males that had suffered gunshot wounds. Those 2 individuals were transported emergent to Denver Health Medical. One is currently in serious but stable condition. The other is currently in surgery, listed in critical condition. What I can share as it relates to the incident that caused those 2 injuries is there was a student, as was alluded to, and as part of a safety plan, they were undergoing a search. During that search, obviously a weapon was retrieved, a handgun was retrieved, and several shots were fired, striking those 2 individuals. That individual then fled the school, but we do know who that individual is, and a search is underway to try to locate that particular individual. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Marrero from Denver Public Schools, who will talk about the school's response.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mayor. Deeply sorry that we're here. I really feel strongly that we shouldn't be here, but here we are. My prayers to the East community and, of course, our 2 staff members who are in the hospital at the moment. In terms of what we're doing at East, Mayor Hancock and Chief Thomas just explained in terms of what happened. I don't want to reiterate the happenings of earlier today. We will have an organized release. The communications should be going out to the parents right now. But also tomorrow and the next day, meaning the remainder of the week, East will not be in session. In terms of what we can expect at East from here until the end of the school year, in collaboration with Chief Thomas and support of our mayor, also communicated this to the Board of Education, that we will have 2 armed officers here at East until the end of the school year. We're looking forward to expanding that conversation to see how we can reestablish a relationship with presence at our schools, in particular our high schools. In terms of the Board of Education, I believe that they're going to make themselves available tomorrow in lieu of our board meeting. That would be an opportune time to have a conversation in terms of what safety looks like in our schools from here on out. En breve, en español, lo que pasó el día de hoy, no sé si fue por la mañana, un estudiante que nosotros recibimos en enero de otro distrito llegó armado, dos oficiales o personal de la escuela se confrontaron y él disparó a los dos. Los dos adultos están en hospital y ahora vamos a comenzar, los niños se van a ir piso a piso a la casa. Mañana no hay escuela aquí en East y el viernes tampoco. La semana van a tener libre. Vamos a tener 2 miembros de la policía aquí hasta el fin de la temporada, hasta junio. Y ojalá podamos hacer eso en la otra escuela. Yo creo que tengo el apoyo de la Junta de Educación, pero mañana a las 4:30, la Junta de Educación está disponible para contestar o explicar el plan sobre la policía. Muchas gracias.
Let me just say 2 things. One is an unrelated situation. Paramedics were in the building when the shooting occurred, and they were able to immediately begin to administer support and treatment to the individuals who were wounded, and that I think will play a huge role in their ultimate recovery from this. And again, we'll keep them in our prayers. But we want to thank our first responders, our EMTs, our firefighters, and certainly our police department who were on the scene within minutes of this incident occurring. And then finally, before we go to question and answer, to the parents, I want to share with you that I've had a chance to talk to a couple of them who are here, obviously. They're frustrated and they're angry, as they should be. And again, those of us who are parents and have young people in this building, we certainly understand their frustration, their pain. The faculty and staff are concerned. We must continue to work on addressing safety in our school buildings and in our city in general, and we will. We have never stopped with that. The police department have been working to have a presence outside of this building for quite some time. I think it's clear now that we need to do even more interdiction with our police officers inside the buildings in these type of situations. So right now, those are the circumstances we know with regards to the condition of the victims. We are looking for the suspect. We will find that suspect, and we will hold that suspect accountable for his actions this morning in placing everyone in danger and certainly wounding the 2 staff members who were doing their job and trying to keep everyone safe at the time. So we'll open up for question and answer. Please ask directly who you're talking to so we can get them to the mic. Yes, sir.
For Chief Thomas. Chief Thomas.
Yeah,
Could you
okay.
please,
We have brief time because we want to make sure we get this order released. Go ahead.
Chief Thomas, can you please give us more details? You said the suspect was being patted down when the shooting happened. Did the person grab their gun, or walk us more through that if you can, sir?
Well, a lot of those details will be. Sure. So a lot of those details will be available to us after a more in-depth investigation. But what I can share with you is this particular student actually had a safety plan that was in place where they were to be searched at the beginning of the school day every day. They had been searched previously to today and had never had a weapon on them before. However, today, during that search, which took place away from other students, away from other school staff, they did produce that weapon and fire shots.
And where did that patting down take place? Is that at the entrance of the school, or where in the building?
It occurred in the front of the school, in the office area, again, away from students and other school staff.
What else?
Can we say if they were teachers? Are we just going with faculty members? Do we have any specifics on what their role was inside of East High School?
So they were deans, they were school administrators.
School administrators. Thank
Yes.
you. Oh, who was doing the patting down?
Again, it was the school administrators.
And
Yes.
Chief, in terms of the suspect, is this a current student at East High School, and is this person under the age of 18?
Yes, under the age of 18, current student of East High School.
Chief, how many students at East High have been patted down with this?
I couldn't share that with you. I mean, I imagine that there are students that have various safety plans in place that result in certain interactions with school staff.
What leads, this is Noel, Denver Post, what leads to a school safety plan? Like, how does a student get in that situation?
Yeah, I think,
It's particular for each individual.
yeah, certainly it's particular to each
Does it
individual
have
student. Yes.
trouble, though, that is indicated?
I delivered his share. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to share that again. That's, we're talking about juveniles. We're talking about students in school that have been allowed to participate in school activities.
Chief, the parents might what qualifies a student for a safety plan? Or is the district willing to share that, or the city?
Sorry, we cannot. Bound by FERPA, we cannot disclose any particulars about any student individual plan, whether it's academic or behavioral.
It's not that
What do you say
specific
to
student,
parents?
but in general, like what happens, like how a safety plan works and what gets you there.
Sure, it's very nuanced and it's particular. They're individual, so it's based on past behavior, and that's as far as I can feel comfortable saying. So it's as a result of previous behavior.
Is there something that you can say, though, to parents out there who are listening to this and they hear the word nuance and they can't get details, but they want details regarding their children's safety?
Sure, it's past educational and also behavioral experiences that each individual student may have exhibited in the past.
Is this a system that takes place in more than just East High School, this safety plan that you have? Can you tell me how many schools do this in the district?
This is common for all schools in all districts. It's part of what we have in terms of making sure that we can support the needs and behavioral needs of students. So it's very common across the nation.
Was the weapon recovered within the school? Has the handgun been recovered, or does the suspect still have it?
My understanding is that the weapon has not been recovered, but again, we do know who the individual is. We do know where they live. We are familiar with associates of this individual, and so we do believe we will be successful in finding that individual and that weapon very soon.
Is the area where this took place, is that under video surveillance? Is that something that you guys would have video of that area?
I'm not sure if there was video in this specific
Well, Dr. Romero,
location.
know that? Is that an area where there is video surveillance in that area, Dr. Romero?
There could be. I know the team is evaluating, and I also know that there has been confirmation that the student left the grounds, so that leads me to say that yes, there is. And I have to apologize. I don't want to conclude this press conference because I want to support the students who are about to be dismissed. So, pardon.
Can we get his name? The name of the suspect? Why aren't you releasing the name of the suspect if you're searching for him?
Because he's a juvenile.
But is there a danger to the public if this juvenile ran with a gun to an area? Is there still any threat to the public at this time?
Certainly, it's a concern that we have an individual who is not in our custody at this time, who is armed with a weapon and has actually used that weapon. So we certainly do recognize that there is a concern. We will continue to evaluate that, and if we identify a specific location where this individual is likely to be, we will certainly provide information to that to that neighborhood that may be impacted by that. And certainly, as we learn more about his whereabouts and his motives, we will certainly share that.
Can you clarify when you said he was searched previously and there was not a weapon? Do you mean previously on other days, or was this the first time he was searched today?
No, so there was a regular protocol with this particular student that involved a search of his person, and previous searches of his person on previous days did not result in the location of a weapon.
But this was the search today was the first time he had been patted down today.
The first time, yes, today, upon his entrance into the school building.
Can you talk about what happened when after he fired the weapon? Did he just run away and no one grabbed him, or is that what happened right after that?
Well, again, so he was secluded. He was secluded with just these school administrators during this safety protocol. And so he did flee that location where the search was taking place and was able to get out of the school before anyone else was able to secure or subdue him.
And then what can you say to the people who live in the neighborhoods right around here? Can you give a sense of where in an area he is, or?
We don't have any sense of where he is. We do know, again, where he lives, and we are executing a search warrant at that location to see if we can identify evidence. We are identifying associates of this particular individual to identify where he may go from here.
And how old is he?
Again, he's a juvenile.
Were there paramedics already in the building? Mayor, is that what you were saying, that there were already paramedics here? Were they here for a career day, or what? Why were
No, they were here for an unrelated medical response, and I think it was related to the young lady who was already sick when they came.
Did the person have the allergic reaction?
Yes.
People were shot, and then there was a third student who was already being treated.
She was being treated in the building at the time. Paramedics were responding to her, and this came in my conversation. I went to the hospital once this happened, to be there when the victims came in. And so I had a chance to speak to the paramedics. They were already in the building. And so they were able to immediately administer support and treatment to those who had been wounded and begin the process of calling in additional support. So that hopefully will help in their recovery. Okay.
Chief, is the pat down something that a school resource officer would under, if they still existed in the schools, would have been doing rather than the dean?
Not necessarily, no. So I think that we don't want to have negative interactions with students and officers. So no, I don't think that it would have been appropriate for officers to have done that type of activity.
What would you say to the East High School community about safety?
What can I say?
Yeah, well, what can you say? Again, this is another situation.
Yes, a very troubling situation. This school has gone through a tremendous time over the last year or so, and we, I think, have been responsive to that. We've had a significant presence in the school since the first incident that happened just over a month ago. We've had a significant presence outside of the school, both during the beginning of the school day and at the end of the school day. And as we've shared before, we will have 2 officers assigned within the school for the entirety of the school day for the remainder of the school year.
Had this student previously been expelled from East High School?
No.
Let's do this. I know that we wanted to make sure that we got as current information as possible to the parents, to the community. We are looking for this individual, but we know now he's an African-American juvenile. He wears an afro with a hoodie on that had an astronaut on it. If anyone has any information, we ask that you notify us as soon as possible so that we can apprehend this individual. We ask people to be careful not to approach him. Obviously, he is armed and dangerous and willing to use the weapon, as we learned this morning. But we're going to do everything we can to keep the community and the parents up to date as we know it. At the same time, we're going to continue our engagement with Denver Public School officials to continue to work to keep these buildings safe and the students and faculty and staff in these buildings safe. But we're going to get the chief back to his team and command post, and we'll do everything we can to keep you all up to date as well so you can help us get the information out. Thank you all.
Are we planning to see Denver police in other schools? Are we going to see armed police in other schools?
As appropriate.
All right, welcome back inside our CBS News Colorado studios alongside Kelly Worthman. I'm Michael Spencer. We just heard from Mayor Michael Hancock, Ron Thomas, the Denver Police Department Chief of Police, and earlier in that press conference, DPS Superintendent Alex Marrero was there as well. Again, our breaking news, East High School still on lockdown. They are preparing for a controlled release after a shooting. 2 adult victims have been taken to the hospital. Kelly, we know that one is in critical condition and is in surgery. Another is in serious condition, and we're learning more about the suspect who still has not been apprehended as of yet.